My guest is Bob Walters, CEO of Untangle. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Richard. Good to be here.
Bob, one of my favorite topics and areas is next generation firewalls. And Untangle has taken a rather unusual step to actually focus and make it your purpose to go after the SMB market. How did you come to that decision, and how are you executing on that?
Yeah, well, I think the decision started with our founders, and it was just core to our culture and just what we wanted to accomplish. We thought it was an underserved market. SMB typically gets approached from above and below, but never directly. So a lot of SMB, the S in SMB, you're looking at home routers, which are horrible for security, or enterprise tools, which are expensive, and just the sales model and support model just doesn't fit for SMB.
Yeah, I remember looking for a firewall a decade ago, and the only option was, a Cisco PIX, which you had to get a certification to know how to configure.
That's right.
So what are the unique things about the SMB market that you have to do from your product perspective?
Yeah, well, for one thing, SMB, at least the part we serve, which is basically 150 users and below, that's the heart of our market, they don't have dedicated IT teams. And so you have to make things just really easy to get the product installed, to learn about the product. They really like to see pricing, almost like a consumer in their buying motion. They also don't like a lot of razzle-dazzle. These are not people like enterprises that are just enamored of tech and have people full-time just looking at tech. They just want the facts and only the facts. But they're very sophisticated economic buyers, and so they want to see the price. They want to know the life cycle cost. They want to know the whole story up front.
So this sounds like law offices, doctors' offices, even schools?
You bet. Schools are huge for us. They're the #1 vertical, in fact, by a fairly large margin. But we have everywhere from law offices and doctors, as you said, to we're very big in oil fields. We're very big on luxury yachts. Any place that our downloadable software model allows us to be easily installed, so that you don't have to ship a product. Professional services is also big.
So let's talk about the product. So it's all software, and you download it to what? To the router?
You download it not to the router, you download it to a PC that you have sitting nearby. It's an easy install. It's like installing Linux. In fact, it is, in an underlying sense, installing Linux. Or you can download it and install it on a VM.
Okay.
So either of those two models, you save a lot of cost that way because you're reusing hardware that you already have in play.
And then that device is inline, or you have to route all the traffic to it?
Inline, we're a full router and firewall.
Okay.
So the device sits in line. 2 NICs are necessary, 2 network interfaces are necessary. But other than that, just a decent computer and we're ready to go.
Cool. What about, now I'm thinking enterprise. Oh, now we need 2 to be in parallel.
Well, we do have that option.
Okay.
Not many people take it, but we do have full load balancing and failover in the product. And even in small business, there are people that say they need it, or maybe they do need it. So we have that.
Do you have a big support load with people calling, with configuration issues?
Yeah, well, that's the surprising thing. The open source model and the freemium model that we use, a lot of the support load is taken by the community. So if you look at our forums, for example, they're rock and roll. I mean, there's a terrific amount of traffic on our forums. And now that we've built up a bulk of knowledge on those forums, just a Google search and you usually get what you need.
If you're, how do people even discover that you're there and know how that this is what they should be using? Where do they start shopping, I guess?
Sure. Well, we're largely a word-of-mouth company. We do attend events like this on occasion. But probably the #1 place, other than just a Google search, is a site called Spiceworks. And Spiceworks is the great meeting ground, watering hole of IT, especially small business IT. We're the #1 firewall on Spiceworks, the #1 web content filter, and that drives a lot of business too.
So if you don't have a team of direct salespeople, just beating people up with a message and saying how you're so great, all the rest, you must really rely on having a good reputation for the product.
Hugely. It's really a case where with the freemium download, the product must sell itself. Mm-hmm. That's our sales force.
Does, is there an opportunity, or are there channel partners, I guess, that are also more of a managed service providers?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I guess I've given the impression that everything's bought direct off our website. Right. Yeah. And most of it is, a large part of it is. But we have a number of channel partners. We service them in largely the same way that we service direct customers, with the exception that they get a special discount, obviously.
Sure. And what's your secret sauce to your technology?
Well, I think the most differentiating part of our technology is something that happens under the scenes, and that is our deep packet architecture. What that means is that we look at every stream in a deep packet sense, in a layer 7 sense. Mm-hmm. It turned out, well, when we first did this, and when I first joined the company, I thought that might not be too bright, because this is small business, and why do you have this enterprise?
That's a lot of load.
That's a lot of load on a PC. Why do you have that kind of load? But time has proven that our decision was correct, because everybody is interested in application, mm-hmm. the application level. And where that manifests, I'll give you an example. It's no longer good enough to just block Facebook. In other words, blocking Facebook in the first place in a layer 3 sense or a DNS sense is a real tough task. Mm-hmm. What our customers want to do is block games on Facebook, mm-hmm. but let the user's own Facebook page go through. And that requires layer 7 processing.
Got it. So not too long ago, you acquired Total Defense. Tell us about that acquisition.
Yeah, great company. Total Defense is in Long Island, and they do endpoint security, okay. largely for the connected home and largely through retail channels. Our vision with the Total Defense acquisition in a product sense was to combine the two. Mm-hmm. In the small business space, we think that that's a realistic thing to accomplish and sell, because there's not much decision fabric. There's not a lot of decision makers holding up a deal to buy both. Yeah. There are definite technical advantages as well. Total Defense also had a nice set of financials and bulked up our company in that way.
Yeah, I've always said, at least to the enterprise guys, there's no successful enterprise company that's had both a firewall and endpoint defense, right? They'll claim they do, but it just never works because of these huge separate buying centers, and network people don't like endpoint products for the most part, and vice versa. But the only place that does not hold is in the SMB, where there's a single decision maker.
Yeah, you even get into sort of security religiosity, in that kind of combination. It's viewed as an abomination. And so small business just says, oh, let's add some features. Cool, let's rock with this.
Yep. Go to the same place, same payment relationship, et cetera.
And common knowledge stores about threats and so on.
Oh, right. So how big is the company? How many people?
We have about 50 people
now,
profitable, growing. We gained a bunch of those people through acquisition. Mm-hmm. We're going to take the acquisition route off for 2016, but hope to start that again in 2017.
And you have global customers?
We do. I'd say the most of our business on both sides is really U.S., mm-hmm. North America based, but the better way to describe our business is it's English-speaking based. Okay. This has always been a curiosity for me, because we're localized in a dozen different places. Most of those, by the way, were open source localizations. Mm-hmm. But we gravitate. We found the gravity centers to be English-speaking countries.
So there's a pretty aggressive M&A environment right now, even with some of the things that have happened the last quarter of 2015.
Sure.
Do you see, are you in, I like to think, as an analyst, I always think, are you in danger of getting acquired? You might not look at it that way.
Well, it's either a danger or a delight. It just depends on how the thing goes. Sure, companies like us that are at scale and profitable always will have people interested. We typically have 2 or 3 interested at any given time.
Yeah. Is that a detractor to operations to have people
We
sniffing
don't
around?
we don't let it be.
Yeah.
You know, because when you've gone through this a couple times, you sort of know when something's exploratory
Right.
and not, and you dole out internal resources accordingly.
Right. What are your future product plans? What's coming up next?
Well, we kind of alluded to the integration of the endpoint and gateway products, but just as exciting, I think, is our home router product that we will have coming out. You know, ARM has transformed the world. I mean, ARM is just so central to the Internet of Things and so on, and it's about to be more central to firewalls because ARM definitely gives us a Moore's Law-like performance increase. And to give you a real example of what the ARM architecture is doing for prices in Untangle's land, about 3 years ago, the cheapest Untangle box with software was about $1,000. We're under a half of that now based on Atom, and ARM is driving the Atom pricing. And within a very short time, we'll be in the 250 to 300 regime, which will put those boxes in both Soho, which is vast, but also in the home as well. So we're real excited about that.
And probably retail too, distributed retail.
As soon as it's going to take, I think, a little bit of time for the market to absorb what Layer 7 can do for you through retail, through a retail channel. But I think that ultimately retail will be a happening as well, and the total defense retail channels will come in handy at that time.
So if you've got a home appliance, will you have to ramp up the BD, working with the various ISPs and cable providers to start getting them to push your product?
Yeah, well, again, through the total defense deal, we have a number of ISPs as customers, Comcast included. We do some key anti-phishing work for them. But the answer is yes. I think the ultimate nirvana for for small business and home security is to get it into the ISP, to get it into the NOC. Because from there you can do everything and not suffer performance advantage. And if you do just a little bit of clever things, you can see into the network and even do routing from the NOC. So I think that's a really exciting possibility. It'd be great if Untangle was the lightning rod for that. We'll see.
Very good. I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. Thank you, Bob.
Great, thank you.